Of all the abhuman types encountered by the Imperium of Man, the squats most closely resembled baseline humans. Squats were the descendants of human settlers who had colonized the worlds around the galactic core in the far distant past. These worlds are some of the oldest in the galaxy, formed when the galaxy's structure had not yet been fully stabilized.
Lorehammer Library!
What the squats refer to as the Age of Founding is equivalent to the period that Imperial scholars refer to as the Age of Technology. This is not technically the first period of the squats' history, as they had yet to evolve their current physical forms. But if we extrapolate their history beyond the frame that gives them their name, this is the time of founding of the mining colonies that would become the squat homeworlds, so depending on how you track the genesis of these people, it could be the beginning of their history, properly. Almost 20,000 years ago, interstellar transportation and communication between these planets and old Earth was continuous, testament to the importance of these colonies to the human homeworld and the greater interstellar civilization it once led. Terra also kept the mining worlds well supplied, with that they could not produce for themselves in adequate amounts, primarily food and other goods that they could not rip from the rock of the ground. This period of contact and interaction lasted until the start of the Age of Strife in the 25th millennium AD. The Age of Isolation, as the squats call it, corresponds greatly with the earlier part of the Age of Strife, around 18,000 to 16,000 Terran years ago. The galactic core was cut off from the rest of human space by devastating warp storms that marked the dawn of the Age of Strife and the beginning of the gestation of the chaos god Slanesh in the Immaterium. Many worlds were swallowed by the warp and disappeared forever, whilst others were trapped in stasis and became lost within the swirling tides of the Immaterium. Most survived this terrible period, although they were separated from old Earth and all contact was lost with the rest of the human-settled galaxy. During this time of isolation and danger, the squat worlds still in contact with each other began to organize for their mutual defense. It was at this time that the squats began to refer to their worlds as the home worlds. These home worlds remained isolated for thousands of standard years, and their inhabitants learned to survive in a universe that had become increasingly hostile. Those that survived their new home worlds grew and prospered. Settlements were enlarged and fortified into impregnable strongholds. They soon developed alternative technology to make up for the lack of supplies from old Earth. During this isolation, the squat guilds were formed as politically and culturally important parts of squat society, and the colonies of the squats joined together in leagues formed from complex trade and political agreements. The engineers produced by the guilds were true engineers grounded in the scientific method, rather than the religious dogma-bound tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, who understood very little about the true scientific principles that underlie most of the technology they so ardently hoard. The Age of Trade took place during a slight abatement of the warp storms that marked the Age of Strife, and led to the squats encountering other intelligent species, including the orcs, if you can call them intelligent, and the craft world eldari. At the beginning of the Age of Trade, some squat strongholds were attacked, but the aliens quickly realized that the squats were determined and tenacious fighters, one might even say stubborn, and that trade and commerce with them was a more practical arrangement. The squats took full advantage of their tremendous mineral wealth, which they traded for weapons, foodstuffs, and the Xenos high-technology weapon systems. To this day, squat hydroponic plants, developed with eldar help, are among the most efficient food sources in the Imperium, traded during this period. The squats remained carefully neutral in the numerous conflicts between eldar and orcs, maintaining trade links with both sides as they could. There were inevitably small wars from time to time, but for the most part the squats' complex structure of treaties and trade agreements maintained a stable peace. The Age of Trade lasted for nearly 3 Terran millennia, but finally collapsed when an enormous orc battle fleet, under the command of warlord Grunhag the Flayer, attempted a full-scale invasion of squat homeworlds. Losses on both sides were astronomical, with vicious tunnel fights through the mine workings and bloody pitched battles in the squats' underground settlements. The squats appealed to their Azuryani trading partners for help against the invading orcs, but none was received, resulting in the development of a deep animosity between the squats and their former allies in the Eldar. The Age of Wars, as it became known, is regarded by the squats as the blackest chapter in their history, and the double betrayal by the orcs and Azuryani gave rise to a cultural enmity for both species which still persists. Many squat strongholds were wiped out by orcs, and the traditional squat epic ballad known as the Fall of Imbach commemorates one such destruction. Even in the 41st millennium, expeditions were mounted from the squat homeworlds in search of lost strongholds, and these expeditions are often accompanied by Adeptus Mechanicus tech priests, eager to rediscover lost squat technology which they crave. The Age of Rediscovery was the most recent phase of squat history, corresponding to the Great Crusade and the current Age of the Imperium for the rest of humanity. As the Imperium of Man emerged from the Age of Strife and began to reunite the shattered and scattered worlds of humanity, the squat homeworlds were rediscovered and contact with the Imperium was re-established. The Imperium found that a distinct culture had developed on the squat homeworlds, and the squats had moved outwards through the galaxy, extending their own domains in a similar way to their genetic forebears, the human. Often they settled harsh planets in similar climates to their homeworlds, but they also occupied more conventional worlds able to support normal human civilizations as well. The squat homeworlds were almost unique in the Imperium, although they were officially a part of the Imperium of Man and owed allegiance to the Emperor of Mankind. They were not entirely directly controlled by the Administratum. Instead, they were allowed a certain amount of autonomy, being ruled by their strongholds and leagues just as they were before the Age of Rediscovery. The experiences of the previous millennia had left the squats with a strong sense of cultural identity, unity, and a fiercely independent nature, and instead of rejoining the Imperium as subject worlds to the Emperor, the homeworlds negotiated a series of treaties that enabled them to keep their local independence from Adeptus Administratum's demands, in return for military assistance to the Imperium and beneficial trading terms for Imperial merchants who craved the mineral wealth of their homeworlds. The character of the squats, hard-working, tenacious, honourable, and inimical to the alien species, was almost perfect from the Imperial point of view, and the Imperium's High Lords of Terror were content to allow them a greater degree of self-government than normal, and avoid the nightmarish task of unleashing a war of conquest against such a powerful subspecies of mankind. In exchange for this freedom, the homeworlds provided troops for the Imperium, and traded exclusively with other Imperial worlds. This commerce made the squat homeworlds very wealthy. The squats also allowed the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus free access to their advanced technology, as the squats possessed several STC technologies never before seen by the Mechanicus, and a higher proportion of working devices dating from humanity's dark age of technology than anywhere else in the galaxy. The squats were also expected to follow imperial policy in external affairs, which was not a problem as they were very inward-looking and xenophobic as a society following the Age of Wars. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of the relationship between the squats and the Imperium was that the squats did not follow the imperial cult. Instead, they practiced a form of ancestor worship, venerating their dead clansmen and their families. They believed that when a squat died, they joined their ancestors, adding their own honour to that of their forebears, but a part of their name and their honour remained with their living descendants, forming a constant link between the living and the dead. Squats ensured that their deeds in life would reflect honourably on their ancestors, adding glory to their clan and their family. Squats guarded their reputation fiercely, willing to go to great lengths to blot out a disgrace to their honour or the honour of their clan. When squats served alongside the troops of the Astra Militarum, they adopted certain aspects of the imperial cult, incorporating them into their own ancestor worship. Imperial orthodoxy is preached by the Astra Militarum commissars and ecclesiarchy priests who came into contact with squat forces, was that the ancestor spirits of the squats were watched over by and emanated from the Emperor of Mankind, and the squats were happy enough to accept the idea and participate in the rituals of emperor worship on those terms. During combat, the squats used squads of motorcycles, supported by massive artillery barrages from juggernaut war machines such as the Land Train, Colossus, Cyclops, and Leviathan. They also used an advanced form of power armor fit to their smaller size, called heavy exo armor.